The amber liquid swirled in Victor Blackwood's crystal tumbler. He lounged in the exclusive Manhattan Club, surrounded by men who measured their worth in stock portfolios and yacht sizes. At 35, Victor had built an empire in real estate that made him one of the youngest billionaires in New York. He was handsome in that sharp, calculating way, perfectly styled dark hair, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes that assessed everything like potential acquisitions. "Come on, Victor," his friend Marcus goaded, already 3 drinks deep. "You claim you can close any deal, charm any woman. I bet you couldn't even get a date with someone outside your usual catalog model types." The other man laughed. "What exactly are you proposing?" Victor asked, his voice carrying a dangerous calm. "Simple," Marcus grinned. "We pick a woman, someone completely opposite of your usual conquest. You have to make her fall for you, marry you even." 6 months, Victor leaned forward. "And if I succeed?" "We each owe you $1 million. If you fail?" "I never fail." "Then you won't mind putting up your penthouse as collateral." Victor's penthouse was worth more than all their bets combined, but his pride was worth even more. Deal. Helena Santos wiped down the counter of Mama's Kitchen for the 3rd time that morning. The small family restaurant in Queens was a far cry from the gleaming towers of Manhattan, but it was home. At 28, Helena had spent the last 5 years keeping her late mother's dream alive. She served comfort food to construction workers, elderly neighbors, anyone seeking a warm meal and a warmer smile. She caught her reflection in the chrome napkin dispenser, round face flushed from the kitchen heat, dark curls escaping from her ponytail, her soft figure filling out her flour-dusted apron. She'd long ago stopped comparing herself to the women in magazines. Beauty, she'd learned, came in many forms. The bell above the door chimed. A man in a $1,000 suit walked in, looking as out of place as a peacock in a henhouse. "Can I help you?" Helena asked. Victor had spent 3 days researching his target. Marcus had picked her from a random social media post about the restaurant. Helena Santos. No criminal record, no debt besides the restaurant's modest mortgage, no social media presence beyond the restaurant's page. She was invisible to his world, which made her perfect for their cruel game. "Table for 1, he said, flashing the smile that had closed $1 million deals. Helena merely nodded and led him to a booth. "Coffee?" "Please." As she walked away, Victor studied her. She moved with surprising grace, comfortable in her own skin in a way he rarely saw. This would be easy. Or so he thought. 3 weeks. That's how long Victor had been coming to Mama's Kitchen, ordering the daily special and leaving excessive tips that Helena always tried to return. "Mr. Blackwood, this is too much again," she said, holding out the $100 bill. "It's Victor, and the service is worth it." Helena sighed and tucked the money into the register, making a note to add it to the staff tip pool. She'd Googled him after his 3rd visit. Victor Blackwood, real estate mogul, charity gala regular, and according to page 6, Manhattan's most eligible bachelor. She couldn't figure out why he kept coming to her little restaurant. "Can I ask you something?" she said, refilling his coffee. "Of course." "Why here? You could eat anywhere in the city." "Why, Mama's Kitchen." For the first time since he'd started his charade, Victor found himself without a calculated response. The truth that she was a bet, a game, stuck in his throat. Instead, he found himself saying something unexpectedly honest. "The food reminds me of my grandmother's cooking." Before the money, before all of This, he gestured at himself. She had a place like this in Brooklyn. Sold it when I was 12. Helena's face softened. Food has a way of taking us home, doesn't it? Your mother sounds wise. She was. Helena's smile turned wistful. She passed 5 years ago. This place, this was her dream. Victor felt something shift in his chest. He'd read about her mother's death in his research, but hearing the quiet grief in her voice, it made it real. I'm sorry. Thank you. She studied him for a moment. You know, you're different when you talk about your grandmother. Less protected. Before Victor could respond, she was called back to the kitchen. He sat there, wondering, when exactly had he become so easy to read? You're spending a lot of time in Queens, Marcos observed over drinks. How's our little wager going? On schedule. Really? Because from what I hear, you've been eating actual carbs and having conversations about feelings. Victor's jaw tightened. The truth was, his usual methods had proven useless with Helena. She was immune to his wealth, actively uncomfortable with it even. She didn't care about his connections or his power. When he'd finally asked her to dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant, she'd suggested a food truck instead. Everyone thinks fat women are desperate, Marcos continued. That's why I picked her. Should be pathetically easy. Victor's hand shot out, grabbing Marcos by the collar. Watch. Your mouth. Whoa, calm down. It's just a bet. Victor released him, but the anger remained. Just keep your opinions to yourself. Later that night, Victor found himself standing outside Mama's kitchen at closing time. Through the window, he watched Helena dancing alone as she mopped, earbuds in, completely uninhibited. She spun with the mop like a dance partner, her face bright with simple joy. She was beautiful. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Not beautiful despite her size or because he'd grown used to her face, but beautiful in a way that made everything else, his penthouse, his cars, his entire life, seem suddenly hollow. When she noticed him and waved, laughing at being caught, he waved back, and for the first time in years, Victor Blackwood felt like a teenager with his first crush. 4 months in, Victor was in trouble. What had started as a bet had become the best part of his days. Helena challenged him, made him laugh, called him out on his arrogance, and somehow made him want to be better. They were walking through Central Park. She'd finally agreed to visit Manhattan, and her hand was warm in his. I never thought I'd date someone like you, Helena said suddenly. Victor's stomach dropped. What do you mean? You know, rich, successful, could have anyone. She squeezed his hand. At first, I was sure you were playing some game. Rich guy amusing himself with the poor fat girl from Queens. The guilt nearly choked him. Helena? But you're not who I expected, she continued. Under all that armor, you're actually kind of wonderful, generous, funny when you let yourself be, and you look at me like... She paused. Like I'm the only person in the room. You are, Victor said, and he meant it. You are the only person who matters. That night, Victor met with his lawyer. I need to transfer the deed to my penthouse. Sir? I'm calling off a bet. Just prepare the papers. 2 weeks later, marry me. Victor was on one knee in Mama's kitchen after closing. Helena's hands flew to her mouth. Victor, I know it's fast. I know I'm not what you planned, but I love you, Helena. You've changed everything about how I see the world. You've made me want to be someone worthy of you. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course, yes. The ring was simple by Victor's standards, a classic solitaire that wouldn't get in the way of her cooking. She loved it. They were planning a small ceremony when Victor's phone rang. "Marcus, congratulations, you magnificent bastard. You actually pulled it off. Wedding announcement and everything. We'll transfer your winnings." "I don't want the money." Silence. "What?" "The bet's off. I'm transferring my penthouse to you all as forfeit." "But you won." "No." Victor's voice was firm. "I'm not taking money for this." "For her." There was a long pause. "Jesus, you actually fell for her." "Goodbye, Marcus." But Marcus, bitter about losing and drunk on spite, had other plans. The package arrived at Mama's kitchen during the lunch rush. Helena signed for it, confused by the formal delivery. Inside was a single document, a photocopy of a bar napkin with the details of the bet written in Victor's distinctive handwriting. The words blurred through her tears. "Make the fat girl fall in love. 6 months. Marriage wins." She was still standing there, shaking, when Victor arrived for lunch. "Helena, what's wrong?" He saw the napkin in her hands. The color drained from his face. "I can explain." "Explain?" Her voice was deadly quiet. "Explain how I was a bet? How you and your rich friends sat around laughing about the pathetic fat girl who would be so grateful for attention? It wasn't like that. Get out!" The entire restaurant was staring. Victor reached for her, but she stepped back as if he were poisonous. "I fell in love with you," he said desperately. "That's real. Everything between us is real." "How can I believe anything you say?" Her voice cracked. "Our entire relationship is built on a lie. Every moment, every word. I'll never know what was real and what was just you winning your sick game." She pulled off the engagement ring and threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and clattered on the floor. "I never want to see you again." Victor stood in his empty penthouse. He'd already signed it over to settle the bet before Marcus's cruel reveal. The city lights twinkled below, mocking him with their beauty. He'd won the bet and lost everything that mattered. His phone rang. His assistant. "Sir, the Santo Foundation called about their youth culinary program. They wanted to thank you for the donation, but were confused about the name." Victor hung up. He had donated anonymously to Helena's favorite charity weeks ago, just because it made her happy. Not for the bet, not for show, but because her joy had become essential to his breathing. That's when it truly hit him. Every gesture, every moment of their relationship that mattered had happened after he'd forgotten about the bet entirely. But how could he make her believe that? Helena threw herself into work, but every corner of the restaurant held memories. The booth where he always sat, the kitchen where he'd helped during a staffing crisis, ruining his expensive suit. The storage room where they'd shared their first kiss between bags of flour. Her friend Maria found her crying in that same storage room a week later. "Talk to him," Maria urged. "You love him." "I loved who I thought he was." "No, you love him, the real him, the one who looks at you like you hung the moon." Maria paused. "Wait, you didn't know about the foundation donation?" "What donation?" Maria showed her the email on her phone. An anonymous $1 million donation to the Santo Foundation's youth program, specifically for culinary scholarships. The donation had been made months ago, long before his proposal. "There's more," Maria said gently. Tom from the morning shift, his daughter's cancer treatment, an anonymous benefactor paid the entire bill, and Mrs. Chen's grandson's college tuition also mysteriously paid. Helena's hands trembled. All traced back to the same anonymous account that donated to Santo. Victor had never mentioned any of this. He'd done it quietly, without expectation of recognition or gratitude, just because he'd heard her worry about her community. But was it enough to forgive the fundamental betrayal? Victor stood in the rain outside Mama's kitchen, holding a cardboard sign like a homeless man. But instead of asking for money, it bore a single message: I was wrong. Helena watched from the window, her heart twisting. He'd been there for 3 hours, soaked through, refusing to leave despite the staff telling him she wouldn't see him. Finally, she couldn't stand it anymore. She grabbed an umbrella and marched outside. "You'll catch pneumonia. Worth it if you listen. You have 5 minutes. I won't insult you by denying the bet," Victor said, rain dripping from his hair. "It was cruel and arrogant and everything wrong with who I was. But Helena, I need you to know." He paused. "I called off the bet months ago. I refused the money. I gave up my penthouse as forfeit before I ever proposed. Why? Because I couldn't take money for loving you. It would have tainted everything we had." His voice broke. "And we had something real, Helena. You changed me, not into someone different, but into someone better. Someone who remembers why his grandmother's restaurant mattered more than all the properties I've built." Helena's tears mixed with the rain. "How do I trust you?" "You don't," Victor said simply. "I broke that trust, but maybe if you let me, I can earn it back. Not as your fiancé, not even as your boyfriend, just as Victor." He looked down. The idiot who throws away everything good in his life because he's too proud to admit he's scared. Scared of what? Of being seen? Really seen, the way you see everyone. His voice was barely audible over the rain. "You saw through every wall I built and it terrified me. The bet was my armor, a way to tell myself I was in control, but I haven't been in control since." He met her eyes. "Since the day you asked about my grandmother." Helena closed the restaurant early, and they sat in the empty dining room. The umbrella dripped in the corner. "Tell me about the donations," she said quietly. Victor's eyes widened. "How did you—" "Maria, though I suspect there are others I don't know about." He looked down at his hands. "It wasn't for show. You care so much about this community. Their struggles become your struggles, their joys, your joys. I wanted to help carry some of that weight. The morning shift staff have been trying to figure out their guardian angel for months. It's not important. It is to them." Helena studied him. "You know what the cruelest part of this is? I can't even properly hate you, because the man who made that bet," she paused. "He's not the man who spent 4 hours helping me piper roses onto Mrs. Patterson's 90th birthday cake. He's not the man who held me when I cried about missing my mother. He's not the man who looks at me like I'm his whole world." "You are my whole world," Victor said urgently. "That's what I've been trying to tell you." "Yes, it started wrong, unforgivably wrong. But somewhere between your laugh and your kindness and your terrible jokes and the way you dance when you think no one's watching," he took a shaky breath, "I fell completely in love with you." Helena was quiet for a long moment. "I can't just forgive and forget. I'm not asking you to, but maybe." She took a deep breath. "Maybe we can start over. From the beginning, no lies, no bets, no games. Just Victor and Helena, seeing if what we have is strong enough to survive how it started. I'll court you properly this time," Victor promised. "No rushing, no grand gestures to impress you. Just me showing up." He met her eyes. proving that you're worth more than any bet, any amount of money, anything in this world. 6 months later, Helena was piping buttercream onto a 3-tier cake when the kitchen door opened. "We're closed," she started, then saw Victor standing there with a mop and bucket. "Dining room's done," he reported. "And before you ask, yes, I got under all the tables this time." It had started with him showing up to help during the dinner rush, not asking permission, just tying on an apron and getting to work. Then coming early to help with prep, learning to cook her mother's recipes, becoming part of the fabric of Mama's kitchen, not as Victor Blackwood the billionaire, just as Victor, who was surprisingly good at dicing onions and terrible at making coffee. "You know you don't have to do this," Helena said, as she did every day. "I know," he replied, as he did every day. "I want to." The ring was in his pocket again, had been for 2 months, but he was waiting until she was ready, until trust had been rebuilt brick by brick, until the foundation they were building was strong enough to last. "Victor," Helena said suddenly, "I love you too." They were the first words of love she'd spoken since discovering the bet, Victor's hands still on the mop. "Helena." She set down her piping bag and walked over to him, flower in her hair and frosting on her apron. "I've been afraid to say it, like if I admitted it out loud, I'd be the fool again, but I'm tired of being afraid." She touched his face. "I love you, not the billionaire, not the man in the expensive suits, though the suits are nice," she smiled. "I love the man who hums while he mops and burns toast and cries at the end of Pixar movies." "Helena Santos," Victor said, dropping to one knee right there between the mop bucket and the prep station. "Will you marry me? Again? For real this time?" "You're proposing while holding a mop?" "I'm proposing while being exactly who I am. A man who loves you more than his pride, more than his fortune, more than anything in this world. A man who knows he doesn't deserve you, but promises to spend every day trying to be worthy of the chance you gave him." "Yes," Helena laughed through her tears. "Yes, you beautiful, infuriating man." 5 years later, the critics called it the most unexpected success story in New York's culinary scene. Mama's Kitchen had expanded to 3 locations, each maintaining the soul of the original while serving the communities they joined. Helena had become an advocate for body positivity in the culinary world, while Victor had shifted his real estate empire toward affordable housing and community development. But tonight, they were just Helena and Victor closing up the original restaurant after hosting their daughter's 3rd birthday party. "Daddy burned the rolls again," little Sophia announced, chocolate cake smeared across her cherubic face. "Daddy always burns the rolls," Helena laughed, wiping their daughter's face, "but we love him anyway. Even when he's bad at cooking." "Especially then," Helena said, catching Victor's eye. "Love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, telling the truth, and choosing each other every day." Victor wrapped his arms around both his girls. The bet that had brought them together was never mentioned anymore. Just a painful chapter in their larger love story. "What are you thinking about?" Helena asked, seeing the distant look in his eyes. "Just remembering the day I first walked in here," Victor said. "I thought I was in control, that I could manipulate my way through anything." He shook his head. "I had no idea I was walking into the rest of my life." "Mom, I remember, expensive suit, terrible attitude, over-tipping like you could buy affection. And you saw right through me." "Eventually." Helena turned in his arms. "Though you've gotten better at hiding the burned rolls." I have not burned rolls in Tuesday. That was intentional charring. Sure it was. She kissed him, tasting chocolate and love and home. Come on, let's go home. All of us. As they locked up Mama's kitchen, the little family walked toward their car, not Victor's old Lamborghini, but a practical SUV with Sophia's car seat and mysterious stains from various toddler adventures. The penthouse was long gone, replaced by a brownstone in Queens where neighbors borrowed sugar and everyone knew their names. Victor had lost a bet and won a life. Helena had risked her heart and found a love worth the wager, and somewhere in heaven, Helena's mother was smiling, knowing that her little restaurant had served up the most important meal of all. A second chance at true love. In the end, the real shock wasn't that a tycoon had married a poor fat woman on a bet. It was that in losing himself, he'd found who he was meant to be. And in forgiving the unforgivable, Helena had discovered that sometimes the best love stories are the ones that start all wrong and end up exactly right. Love, after all, was never a safe bet. But for the right person, it was always worth the risk. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. More powerful and emotional stories are coming your way.